I'm very happy to join you all today. I'd just like to briefly introduce the two speakers who are joining me today on this session. So first of all, we have Shawn Slack, who Katerina has already introduced as the Director of Information Technology and Chief Information Officer at the City of Mississauga. Shawn has been with the city for over 20 years in increasingly senior leadership roles. As the first Chief Information Officer for the City of Mississauga, he implemented the first IT Master Plan for the city and most recently the Smart City Master Plan. Shawn is also very active with public safety, working on the Public Safety Broadband Network Initiative, which has as its objective to implement a public safety cellular network across Canada. And he's also a trained incident commander for emergency management with the city. Second, we have Paul Cowling, who has also had increasingly senior roles with Shaw Communications, Inc., a large telecom carrier and broadcast undertaking in Canada. Paul has been with Shaw for over 10 years. And prior to joining Shaw, he was in private practice and has also worked at the CRTC. So we're very fortunate to have with us two people who present very interesting perspectives on the issue of our topic today, which is 5G network deployment, enabling an essential driver of smart city solutions. You can't have a smart city without widespread and accessible network connectivity, and ensuring timely deployment, including 5G wireless deployments, is in the public interest, but it also presents its own set of challenges and opportunities. We all know, we've all heard many things about 5G, about the innovative applications and services that it will enable. 5G is essentially a shorthand for the next generation of mobile wireless technologies, and we are currently at the tail end of the fourth generation, or also known as 4G or LTE mobile wireless technologies, and 5G is now on the horizon. So I thought I would start by asking each of you, Shawn and Paul, to talk about what challenges and opportunities the advent of 5G presents for your organizations from the perspective of both a city managing 5G deployment, as well as a mobile wireless carrier, Shaw Communications, who also has to manage this coming advent of 5G. So perhaps I'll start with Paul, first of all, to address some of those.
Sure, thanks, Monica. And I think in terms of the challenges and opportunities for the organization, I think they're very consistent with the challenges and opportunities that we see with 5G and smart cities generally across the board for Canada, for the Canadian population, for our society. A couple of themes that I remark upon as we talk more and more about 5G. Obviously, in the current environment with the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of what we were seeing in terms of digitization and virtualization has accelerated. Those big structural changes that we were seeing in the economy and society are now happening faster than we previously anticipated because of the pandemic. And that's an important consideration. Obviously, consumers and Canadians and business people and school kids and teachers are living very differently than they were a year ago. And that behavior is driving the need for digitization and digital infrastructure that will support that digitization. But at the same time, as we look forward to the future and what the economy looks like coming out of COVID and how we reorient the economy to a growth stance. 5G is going to be a significant enabler of that, both from an investment perspective, lots of investment by carriers. There's been lots of estimates out there, and I think the estimates will probably be less than what we actually spend, but 25 billion over the next couple of years, 26 billion. But at the same time, obviously, in addition to that investment, the enabling power of 5G connectivity for future economic growth in the economy is becoming really, really important. So what that means is that resilient connectivity, strong, robust connectivity has become even more important, not only because of 5G and the move towards 5G and the digitization of our economy, but because of the pandemic. And I'd say one other theme that comes up time and time again is we're not done investing, and these grades of 5G and LTE and 3G are helpful markers in terms of where we're at and where we're moving in the evolution of our networks and the evolution of the applications that they support. But I think it's fair to say that there won't be a flick of a switch when 5G starts and LTE ends. And we've been preparing for 5G for some time now in terms of network investment and the other things that need to happen to support 5G, including spectrum releases and so on, have been going on for some time and will go on for some time in the future. So this is a dynamic evolution, and the work that's involved in building a 5G network in terms of the challenge that you pointed out, I'd say, we're going to be going from a very macro connectivity environment where we're connected through these big towers that have big coverage to a very micro environment with tons and tons of densification of the radios and antenna and equipment. And that's necessary because the densification, which is probably 100 times, is empowering what we call smart cities. I mean, when I think about smart cities, I think about smart buildings, smart cars, smart energy, smart lighting, the list goes on. And really what we mean by smart is connected. Smart doesn't work unless it's connected. And in order for that connection to occur, you need that densification of the networks. So I'll pause there to give Shawn a chance to pipe in there.
Thanks, Paul. Good segue on the connectivity piece. And I would say from a city perspective, connectivity matters. And so cities, are a very diverse set of services ranging from non-essential to public safety. And we connect our services with various types of technologies, whether that's fiber, wireless infrastructure, and cellular infrastructure. And so cellular is a big part of how we deliver services. And so I think that's an important aspect when you think about cities and smart city, because data and data communications is how we have situational awareness. It's how we make decisions, and it's how we actually improve services. And it's a foundation to a smart city. You have to start from the ground up and have the infrastructure and connectivity in place first. From a challenges and opportunities perspective, I think Paul mentioned in the densification small cell technology. So that is a change to the built environment. So that is one of the challenges, understanding the types of radio equipment and antennas and how that's going to be integrated into the built environment on the pole infrastructure and the connectivity. And so I think the Federation, Canadian Municipalities, and AMO both had the same comments through their assessment. Was the cities and municipalities' role really is to understand what's happening within the right of way. And I think it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity because it enables collaboration with the commercial providers. And I think there's a real opportunity to do something really unique as we roll out 5G. And I think the other thing that is going to be interesting with 5G is it really does have operational and economic opportunities. As we look forward to autonomous vehicles and other smart sensor technologies, we're going to need that type of capacity across the entire landscape of a city. And so I think that's an opportunity, and part of the reason why 5G is a necessary next step in the evolution of cellular technology. So the city is actually undertaking an assessment on 5G right now, and it really is just looking at how do we inform our key stakeholders and decision makers, and our partners in how this solution will be delivered. How do we inform that and understand the opportunities and the challenges and manage collaboratively? And then we have examples where we're working with two of our large waterfront developments, Brightwater and Lakeview, where we've got an interesting opportunity to have the conversations before any of it is built. And so it's interesting in Smart City, the built environment technology in Smart City is part of the front end of the conversation now, as opposed to an afterthought, it's a nice shift to see.
Okay, thanks so much, guys. So let's you've talked a bit about the opportunities that 5G presents. Before we jump into some of the challenges in a bit more detail for the audience, can you just tell me, okay, if you had to identify, the chief opportunity that you think 5G presents, either from a societal or collectivity perspective or from your organization, what would that be? I just want to set that up before we talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you think you're facing.
Would you like me to start, Monica?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I think, as I said before, 5G is part of a dynamic evolution in network investment that's an ongoing effort. For our organization in particular, we are a newcomer to the wireless space. We entered the market in 2016. We are a new competitor, building a brand new network effectively to compete against the three large national incumbents. So we don't have nearly the same scale. We don't have nearly the same access to spectrum that the three national incumbents have, and we don't have the same number of subscribers to support an investment profile that they have. So we have a unique set of challenges from our perspective vis-a-vis the incumbent competitors in the marketplace. Having said that, though, we are committed to 5G. In fact, if we're not committed to 5G, then we're not really going to be part of the ecosystem going forward. So one of the things I would point out is for us, what we see is an opportunity to be part of competition in that next stage. And competition in that next stage will look very different from competition in the previous eras, notwithstanding what I said about evolution. Because we are now connecting virtually everything, we're connecting and we're creating these smart things, smart cities, smart buildings, I like to talk about smart concrete and smart trees, because literally you can have sensors in almost everything that will help you forecast developments that are both natural and human, and that will help you be more efficient. I mean, I think smart lighting is one of my favorite examples, because it just seems so intuitive to me that if there's less pedestrian traffic and less vehicle traffic, the traffic lights should dim. And isn't that great? Because that reduces the costs for the municipality, that reduces the carbon footprint of the municipality because you have less energy going into the lighting. And you're also reducing the light, which is light pollution, so you're helping the birds. I mean, there's cascading positive externalities to this that I don't think we've seen in previous generations of wireless. That, for us as a newcomer, is a source of potential innovation. And one of the things that we're looking at, and actually just announced this morning, is initiatives in terms of industrial Internet of Things. So we're working with all kinds of different industries to leverage our spectrum and technology experience to help them start their Internet of Things platform. The announcement we made this morning was an initiative that we did with tech in Western Canada. And the so-called tech industry isn't really a tech industry anymore in my mind, because virtually every industry, mining, oil and gas, environmental management, manufacturing, retail, all of these industries are now technology driven and will be leveraging 5G in a way that will make them more efficient, more responsive to consumer needs. So we see opportunities in that as a competitor and as an innovator.
It's great, Paul. Good examples. The sensor-based technology is definitely of interest, and I mentioned about the situational awareness around operations. And so we've had LED lighting for 6 or 7 years now and had the benefit of visibility. Some challenges too with the existing communications, but definitely a cost savings and the carbon footprint piece and better data has been a benefit. I had a couple of examples of opportunities, and I'll use some real life examples. So we had the Hickory explosion in Mississauga. It was a significant event and had to set up a mobile command center, and which required a cellular connectivity. And so we had some limitations with the capabilities given the demand for video and communications, interoperability between multiple agencies. So there were some real challenges with setting up the command center itself, and I think with a greater capacity with technology like 5G, we would have had a better end solution for sure. So that would be one example with a mobile command center. Certainly with the police, with the body cameras, another great example. And you're probably seeing across Canada a little experimentation with 5G and that type of mobile technology. And then on the public safety side, from a transportation perspective, you think of Vision Zero. Probably another great example would be using technology like video analytics, where you have edge computing, video analytics in an intersection to look at pedestrian movement, active transportation, so bikes and scooters, and then traffic, and then using that technology to better inform decision making around public safety. So from a Vision Zero perspective, you want to reduce injury and fatality. And so 5G is a great example. And actually, University of British Columbia had done a bit of research around the use of 5G. And that was one of the use cases. And I think Vision Zero is a common goal worldwide and a problem. So I would say the city of Mississauga is certainly well positioned. We have a new advanced traffic management system, which has some capabilities where this would work. And it's one of the things that we'll be looking at in the future. And 5G certainly would be a benefit for the types of workloads from a compute perspective in the field.
Okay, great, guys. So if we could just pivot briefly to talking a bit about the challenges. So Shawn, you had just talked about some of the opportunities that you see from the perspective of actually a service provider, a provider of public services. What are some of the challenges that you are most concerned about, maybe that keep you up at night with respect to 5G deployment in particular?
Well, I'm not too sure it keeps me up at night. A lot of the things to worry about. But I would say, it is about city building. It's a different, because it's not the large tower type infrastructure. So it's on the streets. It's within the right of way. It's on the streetscape. It's going to be visible. And so I just want to make sure that we have a really good process to manage through that as a municipality, or municipalities in general, are not seen as barriers to the process, but partners. I think collaboration is going to be really important through this process. And you've seen in other countries where that has been a problem around the deployment of 5G. So I think that is a challenge, but I think it's a great opportunity, because I have seen collaboration around construction on fiber as an example. So in Mississauga, we've had joint construction projects with other commercial providers around putting conduit around for fiber. And so I know that we can collaborate, and I know that we can be successful, but it is a challenge because it's new. So it's attachments to poles. And so one of the things that to address that challenge that we'll be looking at is features like smart poles. And I'm not saying smart poles everywhere, but smart poles where it matters, and where beautification within the street right of way is really important. Is that maybe some of the components, the compute, the radio equipment, the cables can be carried inside the pole, to reduce, the visibility of the technology when really the benefit is access to the technology, not seeing it. So I think that is a bit of a challenge, but I also think it's an opportunity for cities to work collaboratively with industry.
Thank you, Paul. So Shawn's talked about densification. He's talked about some aesthetic concerns that the city has to manage with dense and lower to the ground deployments. What, from your perspective, are some of the challenges that you as a mobile wireless carrier face?
Yeah, I think, and maybe challenge isn't totally the right word, but I think it's just the work that we'll need to do. And I think Shawn said it very well when he talked about collaboration. I think the good news is that everyone's incented to collaborate. There's lots of reasons for municipalities to be very keen on getting 5G deployed, and obviously the providers want to deploy it to make sure that Canada is staying in step with developments around the world. So I think we're all motivated to work together, and everyone wants very similar outcomes. So nobody wants ugly. Everyone wants beautification. Ugly doesn't serve our industry well, and it doesn't serve our consumers well or our customers well. So we want to make sure that local concerns on that front are addressed. I guess one thing I would say in terms of that work, networks tend to get built and designed in a manner that we want to ensure that there is a consistent level of quality across the network footprint. And so that usually touches more than one community. And increasingly, the mobile side of Shaw has been extending into more rural and remote communities. The wireline side of Shaw has always been active in the rural and remote space. And so we're very familiar with building relationships with local communities, whether it's big cities, medium-sized cities, or smaller towns and villages. And I think that consistency of network experience requires, in each of those communities, a different approach, a more localized approach, because we need to have that collaboration occurring at the local level. And so we need to be building those relationships. And I think Shaw has always taken pride in building those relationships across its footprint, its wireline footprint in Western Canada, and more recently in the mobile space. But to facilitate those conversations, I do think we need a bit of leadership at the national level to bring together some education to help municipalities navigate that, and to help the carriers navigate and plan through sort of a streamlined process to the extent that that's possible. Some principles, some guidelines, some similar approaches to things. And so I think that's a lot of work because each municipality is in a very different set of circumstances. But I think we want to make sure that all the good that can come out of 5G is available, not just in the big cities that have a much more, have access to more resources and so on. Local communities may not, but even in the cities, there's a different set of challenges because of dense populations and so on. So there's a different set of conversations that need to happen. So I think there's an opportunity to do both, to do that work at the local level, but also to kind of bring together some principles at the national level. And I think there's more work to be done by the industry in terms of education. I mean, one of the organizations that I'm involved with, the CWTA, Canadian Wireless Telecommunications Association, has a sort of sponsors an organization called the 5G Canada Council. And one of the goals with that council is to increase the level of education, increase the level of awareness about 5G, so that we can move further along in these conversations.